Hi, everyone, and welcome to In Focus episode number 4 Hyperspace. It is our little sideshow for lack of focus. I am your host, Ed Horn. I am joined tonight by our producer extraordinary one, Mr. Chris Sheriff.
Hi, Ed.
And we were able to get Sean back on for another show. Hi, Sean. How's it going?
Two in a row, baby. Two in a row.
Keep the record up. Absolutely. All right. So we had a major event happen after we recorded the show last week. FFG silently announced what we were discussing in the previous episode about what is and is not going to be legal for hyperspace events. And they did so by updating all of the point sheets on their website. So there's no official article that I've seen as of the recording of this. It's just, hey, we updated these. And then you go into them, and here is what is and is not hyperspace legal. And I hate to say it, everything I hoped it was going to be. It's basically everything that is 2.0, everything that's second edition is going to be legal for hyperspace events. Everything that is extended is not. So we're going to talk about that. There's so much to unpack on this one. So I'm really kind of curious to see how I feel about this, but obviously we have other folks on here. I'm really kind of interested to hear what they have to say. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start looking at the Rebel Alliance and what's looked, or how about first of all, first impressions? How's that sound?
We'll just cover off. I thought, because obviously some of the stuff is stuff that drops in Wave 2 as well. So like the strike. No, in fact, Wave 3, isn't it? Because the Striker is in Wave 3, and that is hyperspace for Imperials. And obviously,
correct. But we do have some cards for it already.
Yeah. It's a bit weird, but yeah. I mean, I'm generally happy with it. I'm surprised it's so restrictive. I expected it to be restricted, but I didn't think it was going to be like this restrictive. And a lot of the crew that you can't take and the upgrades are really trimmed down. So it's going to be an
especially even
one.
like the generics too, like the generic.
Yeah. Well, that's actually what I'm actually starting to look at. Right, I hadn't gone into the generics, and there's a lot of stuff. Ion cannon unavailable.
In fact, the only cannon available. This is what I was going to. Right before we recorded, I had wanted to say something. I'm like, no, I'm saving it for the podcast. The only cannon that is legal is the heavy laser cannon,
which is amazing. Which
right?
I mean, if there was any cannon I would have said no to, that would have been the one. But hey, this is what I've been waiting for. And I know that a lot of our off-camera or off podcast conversations for me have been. My hope and prayer and my belief was always going to be this, that they were going to use 2.0 as the primer for their main play in the game. And I think it's the best thing they can do. And coming from my former life as a TO organizer, this is the best thing they can do, because they're not letting, or people aren't being barriered out because they don't have the old stuff, which is hard to get now. If you go a lot of places, you don't see second or first edition on the shelves anymore. Correct. So for you to get ships to be able to compete in a grand meta, you would actually have to go to the secondary market and you would have to buy ships, which I hate to say it, but in my opinion, if that would have been the case, we'd have seen the price of plastic go up. Not, right now it's down low because you can't get rid of anything. But if extended was going to be the wave, the wave of the hyperspace and wave of the event circuit, plastic for new people would have been really difficult, unless you have someone like me who's willing to, part with it for relatively cheap because I want more people playing. But that's the key. It's amazing to see. I'm actually excited on the limitations they put out there. I've also been online looking at some groups and things and how pissed off people are about this, which is just amazing to me. The nerd rage is raging.
My red line.
Right. Yeah. In fact,
so I want to quote myself from our little in our little lack of focus Facebook conversation, and my exact quote is this: "I am beyond excited by this news. It is exactly what I thought they should do, and I look forward to what a true Wave 2 or reality Wave 3 meta is going to look like." I don't think they had any other choice, to be perfectly honest with you. I think with I get the tip of the hat to the players that already purchased ships from the previous edition. They wanted to be able to maintain and be able to still play them. I do want to preface ahead of time, if you're a kitchen table player and you are not concerned about playing competitively in any way, shape, or form, this does not affect you in any way, shape, or form.
So
You can
the other
play
thing
all
I
your
just want
ships.
to interject before we go too deep on hyperspace. So this
Of
is
course.
hyperspace the format, which is for what used to be store championships, regionals, and nationals, runs
Right.
on this format. System Open, which still has a qualification path to Worlds, is still extended.
Right.
So that
Right.
they announced that there was going to be 2 paths to Worlds. The extended side is your System Open series. Hyperspace is going to be the other side, which is your Old Star Championships, regionals. And I feel like System Open should be the fun ones. Like, they're not the hyper competitive, but
Yeah.
should be the fun ones. And then
Right.
Hyperspace is where they seem to be putting all of the balancing efforts and everything like
Well,
that.
when you look at the two tracks, like hyperspace is where the gold's going to be. That's where you're going to get your
Yep.
templates and your dice and the cool stuff. And the all the metal tokens and everything like that. So putting a limitation on it, or creating a more a wide open environment. With less ships, you've created a wide open player base, but not allowing all the bells and whistles, and that's a cool thing. I'm excited about that because the league here in Omaha, they started out at 2.0 and then went on this extended track, which just drove me nuts because there was no avenue for second edition really to get in there and to play second edition lists, because you're going up against extend. I mean, you can play anything you want. I get that, but you're really not going to be as competitive. We've talked about this on the show. That competitive avenue for newer players, or competitive avenue for me, where I want the nostalgia of going back to 1.0, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. This is it. And I am thrilled. I am like Ed. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And it's
Well,
going to it's
oh,
going
I'm
to
sorry. Go
temper
ahead.
it's going to temper the game a little bit. You know,
Exactly.
it's not going to be the wide open game that it was. It's going to be tempered. And if you want to play, truthfully, if you want to play extended, play your hearts out. It's just only going to be in a limited track as far as the events that you're going to have a chance. Now, I do have this, and I'm going to say this is I will be pissed at the end of the day if we get to Worlds and it's an extended tournament.
Yeah, and they really kind of need to follow through with that. I agree with that statement. For me, this one checks all the right boxes for me on what the right answers are for the questions that I had going into second edition whenever they announced it. One of the first questions, whenever I realized that the first order and the why can I not think of the other? It's not the resist. Yeah, the resistance. Yeah, for some reason I was drawing a blank on that one. How they were going to be able to compete against the other factions that had so many other ships. That was the first question that I asked. Well, the first order's only got like four or five ships, maybe. How are they going to compete with the scum who have 25, 30 ships? The other questions I had were, well, how is FFG going to be able to balance this? Like, I mean, we all know personally the guys that are currently designing this game, and FFG's staff is only a couple of game designers. How are they going to be able to keep track of so many ships and so many upgrades, and how are they going to be able to go through that balancing process? And I know, and if you're a competitive player and you went out and you've been flying red line for the last 3 weeks and wiping up the tables at your local game store, I get the ire. I really do. But for the health of the game, this is what they had to do. They had to be able to focus it down to a few ships. And the way I counted out, it's only 4 ships for now in the Rebels and Imperials, 5 ships for the Scum, and then everything that comes in the 2 expansion packs for what am I thinking? Help me out,
Resistance
Chris.
and First Order.
Resistance and first order, exactly. But moving on to wave 3, it's most likely going to be those ships that come out for wave 3 for the Clone Wars era ships. It allows them to focus down on those few ships and slowly turn the volume up as they add new and new waves. This makes perfect sense. It allows them to have that design space to be able to say, this is broken, we need to adjust this and need to fix this, and just kind of leave extended just kind of floating out there until they get a chance to get around to it. I think it's the best decision they could have made.
Yeah, the only question, I'm going to put this in there. The only question that I have is why, and as an example, on the U-Wing, they left the Saw Gerrera side of this as an active side, but then like the Cassian Andor Bodhi Rook side of it, they kicked out.
Well, because that's how
Yeah.
they sold it.
I understand. No, I fully understand that. But it's really literally one ship. And I get you sold one earlier than the other.
That's the only
Fully
one
get
that triggers
but
me, Sean. I find that really strange.
yeah,
Because
that's
they've included the Millennium Falcon.
mhm.
So to play that currently, you have to own a conversion kit. They included the Striker. To play that currently, you have to have a conversion kit.
Correct.
So if you're and like they've got Leia crew in there. Like
Right.
Leia crew is part of hyperspace. So surely, just let me take all of the U-Wings then. I don't even care about the named ones. It's more like the Blue Squadron Escort. So theoretically, I can't
Oh, I
run.
didn't notice that. They did that?
Yeah, so
Oh,
you can only take
wow.
Partisan Renegade or the
Yeah.
3 named pilots from Saw's Renegades.
Sog, Magva, and I can't remember the other one, Benthic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you're right. I did not notice that the Partisan Renegade, that the Blue Squadron Scout is not legal for hyperspace.
I get it. I understand why, because one was released as a 1.0 pack. The other was released as a 1 and 2.0 pack. I fully get it, and I'm okay with it, but that's the questions that I have. What made it so that, that ship there? But like Chris said, when you have other things like the modified YT-1300, well, I haven't seen one of those out in black yet on the shelves, so
Yeah.
but I get it. I do get it, because there has to be there has to be something available for player depth for the Rebels, and you could have really done it just with the U-Wing and held off to the next wave or whenever the YT comes out. Because what people don't get, so and I think, well, maybe hopefully people get it, is that this list is going to grow as time goes on.
Yeah.
They're not abandoning those other ships. They're just kind of waiting.
They're waiting till they trickle out in black packaging.
It's worth pointing out that like there's not even this isn't everything that's been announced, because the Striker is in there for the Imperials, which is being re-released in Wave 3. But the Z95 isn't in for Scum and Villainy, which is also being re-released in Wave 3. So come January, this could change again. Because none of the points changed in this. So this isn't a big points rebalancing. That's still happening in January from all the information we know. This is just an introduction to the hyperspace format. So they could add more. And this is one of the reasons why none of it bothers me. It's like, Imperials seem to have got hit pretty hard with this. But, oh well, it might change in January. If not, it might change in March, April time. We don't know. So it's not worth stressing about.
So a question I have, because Chris, you'll be more in tune with this than I am, because I don't pay attention to this anymore. When is the next hyperspace kind of setup come into play? Store championship or regional level? When does that start? Is that after the first year?
There was this is from memory. So the hyperspace thing's what was it?
Wasn't it February?
I think it's February to May, and then September. No, it might be February, March, and then September, October.
Yeah, so the old regionals will be coming up here in February, which we'll see a change prior to that, because you can have ships out, and there'll be more understanding of the balancing. And what I'm hoping is that they put a hyperspace tab into the app.
Okay, so I do have an answer to that question.
I can pretty much guarantee that that's going to happen.
Okay.
Well, so is my understanding, someone else checked this for me. I've not checked it myself, but that the app was updated so that the stuff in second edition only match what's hyperspace legal.
Okay.
So when you're creating your squad in the app and you do second edition, it's only hyperspace legal stuff. Now I haven't confirmed that. I could probably do it while we're sitting here, but somebody I was talking to today when I was sharing this news with our local game.
No, that's not right. I'm on the app now, and there is no Striker for Imperials.
Okay.
So it is.
So we still have a 2.0. We still have an extended.
Obviously, 2.0 will be hyperspace legal. if that makes sense. So if you make a squad that is 2.0 legal, that will also be Hyperspace legal.
With the exception of a few things, probably.
No, I think everything that's 2.0, I've not been through every individual upgrade, but I'm pretty sure everything that is in the 2.0 section, because remember, the upgrades are only the ones that come in the individual packs for 2.0. So...
Okay.
Yeah.
Except for the one resistance card, right? That will come in a pack that won't be legal. The one we were talking about.
The I forgot what it's called again. The biohexacrypt codes from the First Order expansion
reason, that one's
are not Hyperspace legal. That's the only thing from Resistance and First Order combined that come in the expansion packs that won't be legal.
It makes me wonder, though, like, I'm actually really surprised that they updated this without an article. So I don't know. Again, this is me completely tinfoil hatting this. Maybe someone pushed the button a day early on releasing the PDFs.
So.
Because you would think that they would have updated the app along with this to kind of accompany it and quell some of those conversations.
But they put out the PDFs 2 weeks or well before the app was even launched, remember?
Yeah, but I think that was to kind of... I honestly feel like that was to kind of quell some of the conversations. Well, how much is this going to be? How much is... It was kind of giving people so that whenever they bought stuff that day... In the event
that's the same for this, isn't it? This is just to quell the people who are saying, how much is the modified TIE fighter going to be? How much is Kylo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
And the other thing is, this goes back to our conversation that we were having on our last episode, is that, you're going into April, which is a season, this gives you information that's out there. It gives you information prior to... And I believe Fantasy Flight has the motto of subject to change at will, with some of this. If people are complaining, one of the things that blew me away for Empire is we won't see a Lambda shuttle on the table in this.
Yeah,
that was so sad about that.
That was the surprising one for the Imperials, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't as surprised as I was about the U-Wing split. That was the one that really got me. But the Lambda was pretty surprising.
Yeah, because it's been a staple in X-Wing since it came out.
But it's iconic, isn't it? It was a poster boy of Fly Casual, and it's iconic to everything X-Wing.
So for me, there's one other thing I do want to make sure I get across before we go too far down rabbit holes on this one, is that I really want to talk to and address specifically the competitive players. I know this. I know this sucks. I know you're upset.
What are you talking about? You know that I can still run Boba Fett with Fenro and a Skull Squadron pilot?
Right?
I'm okay, man.
If this is your first foray into a miniatures game and owning models that you can't play or are not viable, welcome to the club.
Make sure we qualify that. So they can still play them.
They can still play them.
They're just not viable in the hyperspace.
Yeah, you can still qualify for Worlds by flying your red line and cloak and choke. You can still qualify for Worlds playing that. You've just got to go to a system open.
But you're not going to get all the alt cards and all the acrylic and the metal tokens. Oh. My point being, though, is like, Chris, I know that you did this. Sean, I'm almost positive I've heard you say that you've delved into some of the GW hobby before. But imagine one of the reasons why I ended up coming to X-Wing in the first place was I was really heavy into Warhammer 40K, and that company did not give a damn about competitive play in any way, shape, or form. Did not give a damn about game balance in any way. And it got to the point that it was so super frustrating to have to play against something that was clearly broken, and the company that manufactured the game didn't care, which is why I got out of it. And I came over to FFG and started playing X-Wing, and it was a refresher. It was refreshing to me to come to a company that actually cared, monitored the competitive circuits, and made adjustments. So for me, I would rather put models on a shelf for a year and a half, whatever it takes, and have a stable, viable, competitive, and balanced game than to go the other way around and throw everything into the pool and just hope it works its way out.
But I'm going to throw this one piece is you don't have to do that. Your local community can decide how they want to do the tournament card pack things. They can decide. Your organizers out there still have the leeway to do this however they want to do it, no matter what limitations are put on by Fantasy Flight. If your store has a tournament kit, which has, I believe now, like 2 or 3 different formats in the kit.
But I was reading the Wave 1 Deluxe kit stuff, trying to plan out my events, and I'm not following exactly what they say, but there's a quick build format. There is, I think it ticks all of the boxes.
Yeah, you can play it all extended if you want to.
Yep.
This is only for Star Championships, Regionals, Nationals, and Worlds.
Okay, and but the only pushback that I will give to that is, again, maybe it's just my local community that I'm used to. The minute that this released, everyone competitively dropped extended from their mind and said, okay, so if my Path to Worlds, the most recent close to Path to the Worlds that I have is going to be Hyperspace, and that's where I'm going to get all the tokens, because if you are that competitive player and you're selling your stuff on eBay, or you just like getting all the bling, this is the game you're going to focus on.
So as an organizer then, if you're the organizer of that league, let's say, Chris, you understand this, you can say we're going to play 2 games tonight. Every week, every league we played 2 games. So we're going to play 2 games. One of them has to be an extended game. The other one has to be a 2.0 game. Now, if people want to bring 2.0 lists to extended games, that's fine because that's still extended play. It's just how you want to do it, or there's many ways that you can incorporate extended into it.
I kind of agree, Sean, but I would even go as far as to say that the players that you're talking about, Ed, are just playing wrong. The Deluxe Wave kit has got a massive amount of swag in it, and the money in that is for the Wave Champion, it's called, and the winner of that is the person who's got the most wins from your quick build event, and then your other 2 events. So it's really sorry, just let me clarify. So it's the 3 range rulers and a single plastic alt art card. The Deluxe Wave kits are massively expensive for like $125 from memory. I think they were, which we did an in focus on them. So they're going to be like 1 per store most of the time. So only 1 person's going to win these. And that can be in any format the store wants, realistically. The store can still run that as, we're going to give this to the winner of the extended event we're running. There is no limitation on how the store can run that.
Let me frame it a different way then.
Yeah.
I know, Chris, your local area is a little bit more fun of the game kind of game store. Mine's a little bit more competitive in my area. Sean, I know your Omaha boys, they're a little bit more competitive. We're 3 weeks away from your local Hyperspace event. That's the nearest one. You're 3 weeks away. What's everyone in the store playing?
Well,
we're going to be playing Hyperspace for that, but equally you can
exactly.
But equally you can look at that as, what about when you're 3 weeks away from the System Open that's in your city,
or near your city?
That is a good counter. It really is.
Yeah, and the other thing is that a lot of people prepare. So I classify X-Wing players in 3 groups. There's the casual player, the tabletop, get it out on your coffee table and move ships around. I classify it as the casual competitive. That's the guy that likes to go to tournaments but doesn't have any expectation of winning. Usually comes in last, or plays all 6 games, has a great time, doesn't really care. And then you have the competitive player, which has 2 categories in that one alone. There's the local competitive player who will play in that local tournament, and then after that tournament's over, he goes back to playing whatever game exists in X-Wing for him. And then the 4th one is the hyper-competitive player, which are the guys that get in cars and drive 8 hours to other regional tournaments, other cities, other states, and they're the ones that want all the swag. You got to look at it this way. For the majority of players, once your store championship's over, once your regional is over, there's no reason to play 2.0 anymore. You're going to go back to extended. The players that are going to want to play 2.0 and the ones that will probably stiff arm organizers to stay in 2.0 are those hyper competitive guys that want to travel still and go to the 25, regionals so that they can get, 12 pairs of dice,
Yeah,
or 12 sets of dice.
what I wanted to add to that, Sean, was that you need to remember that each store can only get one hyperspace trial a year.
Right.
So that is going to be like most common event that is going to be once a year. So obviously, you guys, Ed especially, you live in the eastern United States, effectively. So you're pretty like you could probably get to probably if you were willing to do a 5-hour drive, I'm going to guess it's 6 or 7 easily.
So that would have been
trials.
under the. I would agree with that under the old one.
Under the old
regionals. If the hyperspace events are more spread out like they say there's going to be, and they're more like the store championship, kind of a mix between store champions and regionals, I bet you there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, like
probably. But yeah, that was me. Chad and I have shared many hours of stories of hopping in a van and driving 7 hours to Ohio to play in a store championship. And I just want to make sure I agree with Sean 100% that most people are trying to get the dice, they're trying to get the alt art cards and things like that. I went because I liked the level of play. Yeah. I liked being that competitive player. To me, I never sold a thing. I still have all the swag I ever won. For me, it was just a personal level of achievement to say, I want to put my brain against your brain and see if I can beat you. That's all it was ever for me. The swag was nice, but...
So I just wanted to continue my point. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
My apologies.
So if we, even though it's effectively a regional level event in that's... Well, the kit's actually more expensive than a regional kit, but that's like the level of competitive gaming we're talking about. But it's got... If we run it on the availability of a store championship, how many store championships could you get to?
Oh, in Omaha alone, like 5.
Okay.
If I wanted to travel within 8 hours, truthfully, probably 15.
Okay, so that's 15.
There was a year that Chad did 24 store championships in one season.
So that's what we'll call it. We'll go 20 then as a good in between number. They're going to be broken up into, let's say, well, they're definitely in 2 groups. There's going to be the spring and the autumn groups. Sorry, spring and fall. You fucking Americans. So, if the stores split them evenly, which I believe FFG are trying to encourage, I don't know that for a fact, because obviously I'm sure most stores would have been wanting to jump on the earlier ones to get it up and running quicker. But say they split them evenly, so it's going to be 10, and say those groups run for 2 months. So that's 4 months out of the year in 2 big size gaps that you're going to, the average player is going to have access to playing hyperspace. And that's going to be 10 events in 2 months. How many? So that's if you're a pretty competitive, willing to travel, really, really up for this, that you're going to be dedicated. So maybe you do a month's worth of practice. But isn't there a level above
hyperspace, though?
That's a nationals level. So
right, so then you got to kind of account for that too.
Well, not really, because there isn't actually a time frame for that. I believe that you can, from what I understand from when we've been trying to sort out, your hyperspace trial can become a hyperspace cup. I still don't know if you can actually run.
Oh, that's right.
both.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's right. The cup portion of it will go to certain stores. Fantasy Flight will pick them. And it'll probably be numbers based. That'll be a numbers based.
Because that's what I've been trying to sort out for us and find out, because no one else in Alberta can put out the $600 or whatever it was for I can't remember how much a kit was, but it's pretty expensive. Whereas we'd be willing to get 2 of them. So we don't even know if we can run a hyperspace trial in the early portion and then a hyperspace cup for the other one, or if we can literally only do 1 event in the year. So
I'll be honest with you. If Fantasy Flight was if it were me at Fantasy Flight running the OP right now, what I would actually do in this regard is it's going to be an expensive kit, probably 250, $300. But basically, in that kit, you put a store championship ability and you put a regional ability in it. So anybody that wants to pay the $300, 350, whatever it would be, that's how you would do it. Because the one thing I'm afraid of, and this is if you're going to split it like this, you're going to split it down the wrong line that you want to split it. Because if you have a regional level kit that has the dice, the templates, and all of that, and then the next level kit is going to be a store championship level kit, which has a range ruler and some tokens.
So the range rulers are in the Deluxe Wave kits now.
I get that, but what I'm talking about is if you're going to run 2 seasons of hyperspace trials, and in those 2 seasons of trials, you have different types of kits. That's where the problem is going to lie. If one kit is like a store championship kit and one kit's like a regional kit, you really have to have it where you're running regionals in 2 different sections, in my opinion.
This is where I'm a little wishy-washy on how OP decided to do the competitive circuits like this. Because, and again, call me old school and get off my lawn, old and crotchety. One of the things I loved about the way OP ran things before was because it was very regimented. Like, you ran store championships, and then store championships rolled into regionals, and regionals rolled into national season, and the nationals rolled into worlds. Like, there was a predictable calendar that right after worlds, 3 weeks later, store championships are going to be starting up again. So like that's where, like, especially with worlds being in October, like technically there are going to be hyperspace events that are running after worlds that aren't going to get you to worlds because it's going to get you
to worlds the following year.
Which is weird to me. I guess it kind
of
works out the same way.
Worlds is going to be an invite only event now,
and that's
so exactly you've got to unlearn what you've learned. You've got to dump everything. Because it's a completely different game. The idea, in my opinion anyway, of these hyperspace kits and all of this stuff is to give everybody access to these premier level events. If you want to go to a big FFG run event, that's your system opens. Those are your big prestige tournaments that you're going to travel to, and there's going to be multiples of those every year. And like theoretically, they move around, so everyone's going to have access to them. Like, yeah, thanks FFG. I can leave the country. There is one in Canada this year, so I could fly to Toronto. So I could spend like $700-800 on a flight because it's an internal flight in Canada, so it's cheaper for me to fly back to the UK.
But that's what I like. That's what I liked about. That's what I liked about the store championship ones. Like the store championships were far more numerous, and anybody could get to one of those. And then you had the regionals. Yeah, that was probably a little bit of a drive to get to one because there was only so many throughout the country. But you could get to that one. Then maybe if you really felt the itch, you can get to a nationals and then worlds. But if it gave you a regimented season, do you know what I mean? Like something you were playing towards.
I honestly believe that once everything settles down, you will have the deluxe wave kits will be what was the equivalent prestige of a star championship.
Right.
And you'll be getting them every wave. So there'll be more of them.
And you'll have 2 seasons. You'll have 2 seasons, yeah.
Well, so as in, that's separate to the hyperspace stuff. So this is every wave that comes out, they're doing a deluxe wave kit. So Wave 1s should be being played at the moment. December was it'll be January now probably. We should be seeing the Wave 2 Deluxe Wave kit. So March time we should see the Wave 3 Deluxe Wave kit. So every wave that comes out there'll be a store champion for that. So you're OP's hammering you with competitive level play events.
If there's anything they're adding more.
Yeah, the seasonal kits for like your store kits, your seasonal kits now, I think, and they stay the same. They're still happening. I think they're back down to only 3 a year now, rather than they went back up to 4 for a little while. I'm not 100% on that, so don't quote me on that one. So that will still happen. So that's just your casual store can do what it wants with kits, but it introduces the more competitive version. Hyperspace is going to be a couple of times a year, and you're going to have every store has access to it if they're willing to pony up the money. So that
which is good. That's actually a better way to do it because you're getting a higher level event rather than one store in a city, let's say, or one store in a 500-mile radius is getting that one event.
Yeah, and that was the thing with the old regionals. It was it was location and region locked.
Right.
That's gone. So you can have multiple regional events a lot closer to you. So that's even more competitive play. And then
the only weird part about that.
opens.
The only weird part about that one though, the old system with the store championship kits, those were cheaper from the store. So if I went to plenty of store championships that were 8 players. For an 8-player store championship at that level, if they decide to do it that way, I'm paying what, $40 to play in that event? do you know? I'm afraid that pushes out some of the smaller
I'm sorry,
stores.
Ed, but you may be upset to know this, but FFG actually likes money.
No, I know that. I'm just saying what I'm afraid of is from a store perspective.
I'm not finished. There's more. There's more. X-Wing's a pretty popular game, yeah? And like you were just saying that you've got all of these competitive players in your location, and there's this theory about supply and demand.
Yep.
So
I see where you're.
If you oh no, FFG is giving everyone what they wanted, and it costs money. Oh damn!
So let's look at that. Let's actually go into that a little bit, because what that does is if a store decides, hey, I'm going to pony up whatever it is, $200, whatever. Guess what? The store's on the hook for that. They're not going to be able to put it on the player more than one time, and players won't come back. If 10 players show up and you're charging them $20 to play in a tournament, that's going to be, that word's going to get around pretty quick. So what this does is stores will actually have to do something outside of that organizer or that person who's running the tournament or whatever, advertising. They're the ones who are on the hook to draw people in, which I know that's taboo in most stores. Small stores rely on the organizer to bring people in for them and maybe give them something for it. Most of the time, though, the store is getting off what I call scot-free because they've really had to do maybe a Facebook post, the week of. I've seen that where stores here in town will post it the week of. They've had the kit for 4 weeks and you don't know the date. Then all of a sudden there's a Facebook event post. Hey, next Friday, and it's Tuesday before Friday, we're doing our store championship, and you're just sitting there and you're like, well, that would have been nice to know 3 or 4 weeks ago because I plan on going to this store championship someplace else, Stores will have to do something. If they're going to pony up that much cash, they're actually going to have to work for it. And some stores won't. There's going to be stores out there that are just magnets for this stuff. And,
Oh, yeah. No, your average game store that can hold 20 players, they'll sell that out. They're not going to. I'm honestly, we played a store championship. We went up to Ohio one time. They capped out at 8 because the store literally didn't have any more space to play. And it was in the winter. I was told that if it had been in the spring or in the summer, they might have put tables out in the, out in the sidewalk outside the store, and if they had to spill over, but they literally only had 8 spots.
Right.
So that store there is, that's 8 players.
They won't qualify for a hyperspace kit because you've got to be able to host 64 players, and you've got to send photographs of your game area set up to host that many players. But there's nothing stopping them from actually getting a venue or whatever like that. But as an aside to that, the store should have a relationship with their player base. As an example, we've got our Imperial Assault our Imperial Assault Store Championship coming up. I think it's either this weekend or next weekend. I can't remember now. But Imperial Assault's been on a decline. We weren't going to get the kit. The players said, we really want the kit. I was like, well, we'll get one, but it will be up to the community to cover the cost of it. Like we'll pay for me to run it, so we're not gonna, we're not looking for extra money on top of it to cover my wages or the playing space. So I'll be running it, but the cost of the kit is divided between the four. Like, if only the four of them turn up, it's $20 a head. And if they had the choice,
but the community made that decision. It wasn't the store forcing it on the community.
Yeah, but I don't know that. I think
I see it a lot. So because there's so many stores and everything around where, we have one store in town that a good example is they'll have I'm going to say a non-Star Wars game. I'm trying to think, Game of Thrones, where I went to a Game of Thrones tournament, and there was like 8 people there or 10 people there. Well, in the kit, you got like 300,000 cards, and they gave one card to everybody. They charged us $15 to play. They gave one card to everybody. Now the top tier people got the prizes that are supposed to go to them, but then they have a stack of 50 cards or 40 cards that are left that aren't passed out in multiples, to people. That's the thing that drives me crazy, is because you have stores that put the burden on the player base because they bought the kit, and then they choose, and this is just a local store here that does this, then they choose not to give it all back to the community after you paid $15. And what you have to do is they have 2 stores, and this is what pisses me off, is they have 2 stores, so you have to plan their second one to be able to get the cards, because they hold all those cards to the second one. So they're kind of locking the community in to have to go do that. But it happened. It happens a lot.
I don't. So I wouldn't always give out all of the X-Wing cards, because I knew I'd be able to give them out at future events. But Game of Thrones, we give everyone a play set. So we've had Game of Thrones events where 4 players have turned up. Right. So everyone's getting a full play set of as many of the different cards as I can give out.
Right.
And because this is my player base. What am I going to do with them?
Yeah, I mean, your next best bet is the store putting them on eBay, which is breaking the Fantasy Flight rules to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go there with that part of it. But with X-Wing, that's the only worry that I have, which the stores that Ed's talking about, the stores that won't be able to really, the 8-player store, they still have an avenue, though. Like Chris was saying, they have those kits that are happening 3 times a year where they could buy into those and then run multiple events, bring people in, charge money, which will cover the kit over 3 events, and they'll be fine. They'll actually potentially grow their player base and those types of things.
Or they can develop some sort of relationship with another venue and do it off-site. So like one of the store championships that we played at a library, because the guy that owned the store also happened to have a good relationship with the local library, and he just rented out space, or was actually given the space for a day to run the store championship in the library's basement. And there were 35 people down there. Right. So even though his store was a little hole in the wall that didn't really have any area to actually play, he had developed a relationship locally with someone who was willing to gift him a venue to do that. So it is possible for them to do that. But like you said, like it's going to be, the onus is going to be on the store to be able to get that to work.
Yeah, I mean, I've done ITO'd how I met a guy, Marv Cole, who we had a club in town. How I met him is they ran their store championship at a VFW.
Yep, I've done that too.
And it was because one of the members of that club was in the VFW. They got the kit. And, that was the transition between where we were at initially in Omaha. We went to that club, and then we ended up at Sparta at the end of the day. That's the thing, is there's many options. You just have to be willing to suck it up. Hopefully you're not paying for it if you're a small store. Hopefully you're paying minimal dollars for the venue, because you're just jacking up prices on players if you are. But at the same time, it's just, stores have to have big boy pants right now.
In honesty, Sean, I feel like if a store's upfront and honest with the player base and the community,
yes.
Like if I put an event out and I'm going to be paying for a venue to do it, and I say I charge $50, like $50 US a head, and this is for somewhere in between a store championship and regional level event. So it's $50. This is what you get. This is why we're charging it. We make zero. I don't think but that is going to turn some players off. But I feel like most adult gamers will
Yeah, they'll
would
be able to do
accept
it.
that,
Yeah.
especially if that's the only event you've got. It's when the store, like you're talking about, Sean, where if a store is getting you to run an event, you're not getting paid or compensated. You're in fact
Right.
penalised in that you're not playing in the event now.
Right.
And they're getting your services for free. You're running the event for them, and they're charging like double the cost of a kit, and then not converting that into gift cards or store credit or
Right.
whatever, and just pocketing the money. And I accept that that is some stores' business model. OP support is a large factor of some stores staying afloat, and if that's what they've got to do, that's what they've got to do. But again, be open and upfront about it. If you're this is a bit, well, it's massively lack of focus tangential now,
Well,
but
that's why we're doing it this way.
yeah, you know that you know your own community. I know, like, as an example of the Infinity community I've built in Calgary or helped to rebuild in Calgary, I've just been upfront and honest with them. It's like, if you guys are all playing here, this is what I can do. This is what it is. I can charge this much and you can get this back. If you want to pay more, I'll give you this. If you want to pay less, I can give you this.
Right.
I find as long as you've got the open and honest communication with the different people, and it's like I'm upfront with people. It's like, oh, can we play late tonight? It's like, well, it costs $50 an hour to keep the lights on in the building. So, can you play late tonight? What are you as a community doing to cover the cost of my wages to stay in the building and keep the lights on? You know, I'll do it, and I'm not saying you've got to give me $70 to cover my wage and the lights, but if I come, if you come in the next week and you've just bought this army online, we're probably not staying late.
Right.
Right. And that's the battle between, that's another whole, topic of conversation.
Pay where you play, kids. Pay where you play.
At a minimum, pay something to where you play. Whether it's buy a soda or.
And I'm not trying to guilt people into it, but that's how I run my events. I will bend over backwards for the communities that support the store. If you don't support the store, I won't give you bad customer service, but I'm not going to go the extra mile to, okay, I'll stay later. Or not. There's been times where I'm clocked out. I'm not on the clock anymore. I'm not being paid to be there, but I know it's a good, vibrant community, and I care about that stuff. So I'll stay in the store so that, I don't have to set the alarm so they can finish up the games and stuff. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But I'm not going to say that every store can and will operate like that.
Right.
But,
and that's kind of going way off focus here.
So has anyone else got any points on stores and OP before I drag us back on focus for the last 12 minutes?
I actually think I'm dragging us back by my statement here, Chris. So.
Drag us back to the actual topic at hand.
To the topic, yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back to the reality of this show, what do you guys think of this? So give me your actual impression of restrictions on ships for the hyperspace legal lists.
Okay, so for me, I'm happy that there are restrictions. I'm slightly disappointed at how restrictive it is, but nowhere near upset about it. I would have, as an example, I would have liked A-Wings and B-Wings. Maybe not A-Wings because they're coming for resistance. So I would have liked B-Wings and Interceptors. Or, in fact, in honesty, I would have liked Quad Jumpers for Scum because I just want to play Quad Jumpers. There's so much fun at the moment. But, an extra, I would have liked maybe 2 ships from Extended.
So with that, what you just said, and Ed will get to you. I'm kind of moderating, aren't I? That's kind of
weird. We take turns, man. You can host. It's good.
I know. So here's the question. Then the follow up on that is, and I don't know this myself because I haven't done the deep dive into the conversion kits, but the ships that are legal for hyperspace, how many of them how many ships do you have to buy of the second edition nature to be able to play them in the hyperspace? So what I mean by that, you understand what I mean, I hope. But
So
what I go ahead.
I think what you're asking.
So do all of the cards cross over? All of the upgrade cards cross over from the conversion kit to what would be in the actual pack that comes with the
Oh, right,
ship?
yeah.
If you
So
bought the
at the
ship.
moment, everything. If you buy a Rebel, I'm going to talk Rebels because this is the most interesting one, and there's no, as far as we know, there is no Millennium Falcon expansion announced or anything like that. So this gives us a full array of it for Rebels. So the Rebel ships are X-wing, Y-wing, U-wing, as long as it's only Swords Renegade U-wing,
Right.
and the Millennium Falcon. That is the 4 ships for Rebels. Right? Have I missed anything, Ed?
No,
I've
you're right.
got it in
And then
front of me.
and that the U-wing's restricted to the
Yeah.
fact that it's just Saw Renegade. Yeah.
Let me just pull it up to make sure I'm not just lying to people, seeing as we're actually doing something serious now.
Mhm.
So we've got the BTLA-4 Y-wing is hyperspace legal. That's one. We have the T-65 X-wing. We have half of the U-wing and the Millennium Falcon. So yeah, those 4 ships. Of those 4, you can currently buy the Swords Renegades pack, which gives you the U-wing and the extra X-wing for those cards. The X-wing pack, which gives you all of the other X-wings that aren't in Swords. The Y-wing, or you can buy a Rebel conversion kit. Rebel conversion kit doesn't give you anything from Swords Renegades, so
you have to have Saws running.
yeah, that's the only box you need to have if you want to be able to play all of it. You need a Rebel conversion kit and Swords Renegades, and then you can play the Rebels.
Okay.
And the starter set, sorry, because you can't. Luke Skywalker is not in the conversion kit.
Well, yeah, you kind of needed that. From the Imperial side of that, I know, Sean, you're kind of on this one too. The TIE Advance is legal. Everything comes in the conversion kit there. The TIE Fighter is legal. Everything from the conversion
starter set is needed for some of the TIE fighters.
Correct. Right. And
TIE Reaper,
which obviously you have to buy the Reaper for, which means I need to go buy one now because it's the only one of the only legal ships. Yeah. And then the Striker, and I believe that all the pilots are in the conversion kit for the Striker.
Yeah, the only way to get the Striker at the moment is conversion kit. Wave 3, it has been announced that it's coming in Wave 3.
Right, but you can't, so you can fly it as is right now. The only thing that I don't know is the generics.
What do you mean by generics?
Like the generic upgrades themselves.
Okay, so I can tell you what comes where now.
Like as an example, like the Tempest or Storm Squadron. No,
not the generic pilots. The generic upgrades themselves. Like for example, every R2 astromech is legal. I'm pretty sure those all came in the starter set.
I don't think they did. I think one of them only comes in the Rebel and Scum conversion. I can't remember which one it is. HLC comes in the fire spray or any of the conversion kits. I'm just going down them now. Yeah, Informant only comes in conversion kits. Oh no! Is it in the Reaper as well? I can't remember now.
I don't own one, so I'm gonna have to go buy one.
Perceptive Co-Pilot is only conversion kit. Tactical Officer I think is in the Reaper. Navigator's conversion kits. This is just from memory, so I might be wrong. Cononets are currently conversion kit only, but will come in the Striker pack in Wave 3. Mm-hmm. Protons and Seismics, I believe.
Those are all in the conversion kit.
Protons and Proximity, I think, come in the Fire Spray. Seismics, I think, are conversion kit. I think.
So for the most part, you have access to almost everything just with the conversion kit alone.
Yes.
Correct. The only thing I
with the exception of you do need a core set, and you need one anyway for damage deck and everything else.
All of the force powers only come in the conversion in the starter set,
except
hate, which isn't that yet.
which isn't out yet.
That will only come in the first order conversion kit, I imagine. Which means that to run Darth Maul crew and be able to put hate on Boba Fett, I need to buy a first order conversion kit.
But this is where my concern is, though. So we'll get into this in a second. But if hate is a generic and I can only get it in the first order kit, this gets us back to that model where I have to buy ships for a faction I don't want to fly.
So that already exists. If you want to fly 000 in Scum.
Yep. Or if you want to get the Darth Maul crew card.
But I would
secondary market.
Yeah, I would point out that none of that stuff is legal in hyperspace apart from hate, and I believe only Kylo Ren will be able to take the dark side ones. I don't know. In fact, Vader must be able to take it. I don't know. It's weird how it's. I've not seen the actual card, so I don't know what it says. If you know what I mean, but
yeah,
you're gonna buy the first order conversion kit because it's just stupid good.
Of course.
So okay, so Ed, getting back to you. So what's your impression of the announcement for the hyperspace legal and what's not legal, and stays now in the Legends version of X-Wing compared to Disney's Legends for canon?
My response to that is it feels good to be right. Because if we recall correctly, when we were first evaluating second edition, this is exactly how I felt that they should do it. I understand the slow burn on why they waited a few months until after release to do this, but I think, again, from the design, I am more concerned about the health and vitality and longevity of the game than I am about ships that I've purchased that I can't currently fly in a hyperspace event. I think that this is the right decision. I think it is going to allow the FFG design team to focus on a handful of ships per faction. It's going to allow, by February, keep this in mind, by February, when Wave 3 comes out, we're going to have 7 factions in the game. It is the ideal way to be able to monitor that meta and do points adjustments for it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I am kind of with Chris on some of the things, with specifically the generics that aren't legal. That one is a little restrictive. Like, I don't understand why ion cannons aren't legal. I don't understand why. Do you know what I mean? And I understand conceptually, I get it, because that means that those are going to come out again in another expansion.
In honesty, I think they've taken out. So ion cannon isn't legal because it doesn't come in the fire spray. The fire spray is currently the only ship that can use it. That is actually in hyperspace. So if I make ion cannon legal and you want to play at hyperspace, you've got to buy a fire spray and a conversion pack now.
Right.
And you might be buying a conversion pack to not own any ships just for cards.
That's a good argument. That's a good argument. Okay.
And that's the best way to do it, because the barrier to entry is much lower. Your barrier to entry now, if you really want to make it that way, is just buy ships, with the exception of
black boxes.
With black boxes, with the exception of the Saws Renegade type situation.
So the Saws, I believe, has been confirmed to be getting a repack to just have the 2.0 cards in. So once the initial
been able
batch,
to predict that was going to happen.
Yeah. Once the initial batch runs out, that one will be getting reprinted straight away. It's not like the other ones that are waiting. They will not reprint the 1.0 portion of it,
right?
And it will go in the black packaging. I think I'm going to double check while I'm talking, but I think it actually shows like that on the website.
The only thing I could say that could potentially catch them, and again, I haven't gone card by card in the generic upgrades, is if there is a generic upgrade that is available for purchase but isn't legal for hyperspace. Now, I don't think that's the case. My assumption, and I have a lot of faith at the folks over at FFG, that they went through that anything that's currently in a black box that you can purchase or is in the 2 pre-second edition boxes is currently legal for hyperspace. I'm going to assume
with the exception of one card that's specific to First Order, I believe.
Right, but that card hasn't come out yet.
Right, but it will be out
It will be out in a couple of weeks. You're right. You're right. Like Chris said, that this could change in January.
Correct. So one of the key pieces in this that I like is the fact that they lowered the barrier to entry. They've also lowered what I'm going to call the power of the game. You know, the overall wide view power of the game.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree more with that.
To Scum's the only good faction at the moment.
Well, now here's an interesting thing I'm going to ask you, Chris, because I haven't seen it myself yet. But you know, have we seen Rebel lists with the Millennium Falcon? You know,
not really. There's a new list going around for YT-2400. I think there's a decent chance that like Lando is good in the Rebel Falcon. His ability is pretty strong, but people aren't playing it. The YT-2400 is the only large base Rebel ship that's getting any love. But
somebody may have done a video on that recently that I watched.
Someone might have.
Who did that? Oh, you did that.
But the key piece I'm saying is that they added an element in that kind of broke the rules of their own rules by putting the YT-1300 in the Rebel hyperspace ability, which
I feel like that is purely because Disney said, well, no, it's not even that. I'm not even going to go that far. I'm going to give FFG more. Show. I'm going to give them more credit that it's a Millennium fucking Falcon, man.
Yeah,
it's the icon. Can you imagine playing Star Wars and not like you can play Lando's Falcon, you can play Rey's Falcon. You know what you can't play?
Han's Falcon.
Yeah. So the irony of it is that, you know, they're putting out movies which are origin stories for the Millennium Falcon. You know, Solo was the Millennium Falcon origin story.
Yeah.
You know, when you really break it down. Now, it was a good movie.
Point.
But really and truthfully, that's what I think it is it showed more about the Falcon than it did, you know, it wasn't in every scene. Doesn't need to be in every scene, but it showed the origin of that ship to what it became in 1977, which then what it became, you know, in whatever year The Force Awakens was released. And and when you view that, it is the most iconic ship that's in X-Wing, that's in Star Wars,
period. It's the reason why whenever the ship was revealed in Force Awakens, the whole crowd cheered.
Right.
It wasn't because, you know, they saw Rey and Finn running across the desert. It's like, there's the Falcon.
Yeah, everyone cheered for those quad jumpers. They knew in 2018 the quad jumper was going to be the best ship in X-Wing.
But in the Legends version of X-Wing, it's not in the legal version of X-Wing.
Yeah, give me time, Sean. But so one thing I wanted to quickly, we're basically talking about it now, but just to formalize it, was the feel of the three factions. So obviously, Resistance and First Order is pretty much, it's all legal. Resistance gain a new ship with the A-Wing, which seems pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
First Order keep everything that they already had.
Except for one upgrade.
Yeah. Scum get the new TIE fighter. So awesome. They already had 4 ships without it, but apparently they wanted 5 just to be greedy.
Didn't they have the escape craft? Didn't they actually have 5?
Yeah,
and now it's going to be 6 when that comes out?
Oh no, it's Fire Spray and Fang Fighter, then Lando's Falcon, but Lando's Falcon comes with escape craft, and then it's TIE Fighter, so they'll have 5 compared to...
Oh, okay, I did the math on that. Okay, you're right.
Yeah. So like I said, there's 13 ships from the original 3 factions, and then Resistance has Falcon, T-70, A-Wing, Bomber, 4, and then First Order have got FO, SF, Upsilon, and Silencer. I think that's all of them. So they've got 4 as well.
Let me double check here. So the FO, the SF, the Silencer, and the Upsilon. And strangely enough, we're in a meta where everyone's got basically the same amount of ships.
Apart from Scum, who get an extra one. Stupid escape craft.
Because they're Scum. They don't play by the rules.
How does everyone... if you look at what you've been trying to... Sean, I know you've been mainly list building and practicing rather than throwing down in tournaments. but Ed, you've played a couple of games, and I know I've played a few. How do you see? Like, how different do you think this is going to be, and like which factions suffer the most?
Well, so for me, like when second edition first came out, I was super excited to run the TIE Swarm, and then I quickly was going up against extended lists that were just trouncing it. Like it was just trashing. I'm like, okay, well, I can't play this. It's not super. I mean, it's fun for me, but it's also losing is not super fun. So I automatically gravitated towards the extended version of the game to kind of add extra power to kind of compensate for that. I'm actually really excited to only have 4 ships to deal with. I'm really excited to be able to go, how do I fit these square pegs into round holes and come up with the combinations that work for this? I'm really excited by it. I think it's going to be an interesting meta. It's going to be a balanced meta, and I'm not going to have to. There's one of the things I've really struggled with whenever second edition came out was trying to learn what every upgrade in the game did and what every ship in the game did. Oh, I'm running this and such by. I'm like, I don't remember what that guy does. Can I read the card? Now I can kind of like focus down because I play as little as I do, just on the ships that are currently legal.
Yeah.
See, and I'm with Ed in that regard, where I like the fact that you can have TIE Swarms in the game again. And
I
TIE
can't wait. I
Swarms,
can't wait.
truthfully, TIE Swarms will be, because I've seen it, TIE Swarms will be a good counter to the Scum abilities, to the Scum lists. As long as you can get your shots through, you're actually going to
And
be in
Boba
good
doesn't one
shape.
shot them off the board for me.
So
Right,
I think the Imperial
Rebel-
list will have to be the cheap 3 dice attacks. So anything where you're gonna get decent spike damage, because that's what will counter Bubba, and then you're gonna have to worry about how you kill Kylo. So it's gonna be an interesting rock paper scissors, I think.
there will be.
You've got answers to it. Like Supernatural Vader can beat Supernatural Kylo, but probably can't beat Fenrau and Bubba. And then you're not accounting for the Alpha Strike from a Rebel Protons. So there's some good options all around, I find.
Well, I think, like you mentioned, the rock paper scissors is going to be more interesting in this, and there's a lot of things because we're looking at this from a very high, the 30,000 foot view right now, but there's going to be a lot of things that people are going to come up with that just aren't coming out right now, that aren't the top of the
because they were abandoned, because
or
extended was there and it was just better.
Right, and the concept doesn't exist yet. A more viable ship list than they ever were when they were, first the 33-point fire sprays for the Imperials. I think that they're going to be a viable. It's a lot of dice, and you have 6 arcs you're shooting out of, with 3 dice at a minimum on each arc. So if you play it right, I think that you can compete with any list. You're going to be very stripped down. It's not going to be a funk, which is great for me. That's why I want to play it.
Generic upgrades so stripped down. I mean, you only have a handful to deal with anyway, so it's
not
going to notice the difference.
From a high level meta perspective, I don't think it's worth judging hyperspace at the moment.
No,
because whilst we've had what is eligible, we've not had the January points rebalance yet.
Right.
So everyone, this is my initial thoughts as well, is holy crap, I can still run Boba Fett with Marauder and Han Solo, and my list, you can still, the good scum list, the non-Drea Swarm good scum list is still there, but everything else is gone.
Right.
Yeah,
I can run my Strikers and Reaper, but I can't take Sloan, so it's not a Sloan Swarm anymore. I can, I suppose Rebels, everyone's running Wedge and Fane, so you can still do that. Well done. But the big Imperial boogeymen of Chalk and Cloak Whisper, or Sloan on Whisper, or Sloan on the shuttle, and the fact that the shuttle's stupendously efficient, the Swarm for Strikers, Redline, and or even double Punishers with Trajectory Simulator, all of that's gone. And whilst like, yeah, you could. One of the things I thought initially was, well, the double Punisher players are just going to move across to the double resistance bombers because they can still take trajectory sim. It's like, well, the more expensive base, they don't have the supporting ships. Like you can't take a choke and cloak whisper with your resistance bombers. So and ablative plating doesn't exist. So if they
Right.
throw a bomb at the front, they're going to take damage themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, you still have similar play styles available, but it's going to be a different feel apart from Scum. And that's why,
Specifically Boba.
yeah, that's why I'm hopeful that the January points rebalancing removes that as a viable option.
So here's my last question. I have to ask this question because I was thinking about this earlier today. So now that we understand what hyperspace legal is, will we ever see, and this is just a question, we're going to kind of look at this as in the future, give prediction. Will we ever see a YT 2400 in hyperspace legal? Will we ever see a Hawk in hyperspace legal? Will we ever see those legend ships that were pulled into the game, the E-Wing, whatever other ships from other factions that were pulled in? Are we ever going to see them hyperspace legal, or will those kind of fade as the franchise grows and new ships come in and they put more things in? Will those types of ships just fade away into the background of the legends of X-Wing rather than stay as a ship that's in the future of X-Wing?
That is Chris. I'm going to let you answer that one first because I got stuff on that.
So I would say that ultimately we don't know. There's obviously a lot to it. We know that there is going to be more stuff added. Like the Scum Z95 is going to get added because it's going to be in black packaging, so it'll be in there.
Correct.
Whether that means they lose something to add it and everyone stays at the same number of ships, or if it means that we everyone gets one extra ship or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like
it's just
so.
It's a curious feel to me, having what because you have series coming out. You're gonna have live action series coming out. You have two of them that are announced. More of the one-off movies will be coming out over time. My question here is just, will we see the ships that were kind of added into X-Wing?
So I would say, Sean, I would guess that we won't see E-Wings, we won't see the Punisher, we won't see Decimators. Anything that they reach pretty deep into the EU for, I think they'll hang around in extended until people can't find the models and stuff like that. But and that is if X-Wing does what all miniatures games do and goes into a third edition in 5 or 6 years' time. If it's X-Wing 2.0 in 12 years' time, yes, we will see everything again. Because extended will still exist, probably, maybe, and people will want those ships and the secondary market won't be able to keep up with it because people will just throw them away. And that's what happens. So I feel like if given infinite time, yes, because the molds already exist type thing. But for the foreseeable future, I think E-Wings are all of that legend stuff is effectively dead.
See, now I actually have the exact opposite stance on that one. So it was really interesting to hear your response on that one. I find it a little difficult to believe if that was the design idea going in, that they would have even printed them at all with second edition rules.
Nerd rage.
It's not necessarily a nerd rage. I mean, if that were the answer, I'd be fine with it. Let me preface that before I go too far. If that is indeed what ends up happening, and ships like the E-Wing and the Decimator and some of those ships that were pulled directly out of the EU, our beloved TIE Defender, if those...
So the TIE Defender's current EU? Well, it's not even
Oh,
EU.
no.
It's current. It's in Rebels. So
I was just going to say, so it's current, so I'll still see it, so I'm okay with it. But my point being is, so we don't know anything beyond Wave 3. And they've got a long way to go to ramp up into some of these live action shows and some of these other things. So they do have ships that they can put in from current canon, but at some point in time, they're going to have to release a wave.
Well,
And
I accept that. But my point would be, I think we're more likely to see. So I will postulate. Let me put two scenarios in front of you, and we'll see which one you think's more likely.
okay,
For the next batch of hyperspace in 2020, we're going to have the Falcon model will be out, the Defender will be out. So that's one for Imperial.
Shuttle.
Scum will go with the Quad Jumper because it's in one of the movies. The Resistance will get the transport ship.
Or something from the TV show.
The Resistance will get the transport because I think they've only got the Falcon as a crew character at the moment. So a transport from Force Awakens, the modified B-wing, and
the chassis. Yeah.
The First Order will get the interceptor thing that is in
Last Jedi.
No, it's in the series, The Resistance.
Oh, gotcha.
Clone Wars, so we'll get the Republic Y-wing, and Separatists will get a heavier.
I can't wait for that ship.
Yeah, heavier droid ship.
Yeah, or you could see the ARC 170 also in that regard.
The ARC 170 is already.
That's right. It's already announced. My bad.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone ever played Battlefield 2, but there is an interceptor style droid ship that is considered canon as well.
Yeah. So you've got those 7 ships to release as your wave 4 and 5 in time for Hyperspace 2020, or we can release a Hawk. We can release the TIE Aggressor. So we'll release a Hawk, the TIE Aggressor, then we'll do that awesome. We'll do the Kimagilla, and we'll. So which ones of those two scenarios seems more likely?
Yeah, that's my point in this is that there's going to be ships and people are going to have to get ready for this. Ships are going to fade away. It's just going to be it's the nature of all miniatures games to begin with. Not everything that I played in Warhammer Fantasy in the 90s existed when I played in the 2000s.
Why would you take Space Marine Manius Calgar when you can take Primaris Calgar?
Yeah.
It was like 17 feet tall in comparison to his 30 millimeter base Calgar from before. Yeah, I remember that.
And that's my whole point in this is that because you still have to have the room slotted in for the VCX 100. You have to have room slotted in for all these ships from all the stuff that Disney's piling into the market. And with this change, seeing this and what brought me to this question and this concept of idea is that other than the YT 1300, because that's just icon, you're going to put it in there. There's no way around it.
I have to say, Sean, I feel like we're going to have the YT 1300 repackaged with Wave 3.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's going to come with Wave 3, and they just didn't announce it yet because there was no need to. Because
and it can be based on the last movie too. The episode 9. That's when I think it's going to come out, is when we see episode 9. That's just my personal opinion about it, because it was a Wave 2 ship originally. It's going to be a much farther Wave ship down the line, but that's fine. That's just the one unique situation in all of this.
What I'm saying is because currently Rebels don't have a ship released in Wave 2 or Wave 3. So I think they actually do, and it's a Falcon. We've just not been told yet.
Correct. But you also have to look at, you have a whole U-Wing cast that you're going to have to release, because you have a movie in there that has a U-Wing and all these people, all the upgrade, the pilots and everything. You have the stuff that came from Rebels. You have there's just a lot of stuff that's going to get piled in. You got to put B-Wings in because another iconic ship from the movies. A-Wings are coming back in already. B-Wings, you're going to have something with those. So the big thing I'm getting at is that you're only going to be able to release so many ships a year. If you have 3 wave releases a year of ships, you're just going to start seeing these other ships fade away. The Hawks, and I'm repeating myself here, but the ships that I brought up, the Hawk, the E-Wing, the K-Wing, the K-Wing's another ship that's out there that's like a lot of Rebel ship actually get hit. There's some
Don't tell Wade
Imperial
Pache
ship.
that he will cry when he finds out the K-Wing's being phased out.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that seeing what's legal in hyperspace and seeing what's coming out, hyperspace legal is going to mean something. And I think what it will mean to me, at least because I'm answering my own question here, is what we'll see is, and what it will mean to me is that ships that progress forward and ships that are in the Disney era, I think we'll see other than the icon ships from the 3 original movies. Everything else will have to fade because there won't be enough design space in the future to be able to put everything in, unless they create a pack, unless they create a Legends pack that's legal in 2.0 that would bring.
I could see a squadron pack for each faction, like they have announced for
Separatists
and
the
Republic.
The Republic.
Yeah, that would be the only way to do it.
The only other pushback I'd concern with on that is a lot of the scum ships, like a lot of the bounty hunters and stuff, never ended up in a movie. So there's
but the bounty hunters did. I would say
that's a good argument.
You're going to there's going to be a priority, obviously, but number one was Boba Fett. I would guess that they do the IGs because they're in all, but I don't know.
It's hard to say because the IG lore is more than the reprocessed coffee machine from the cantina scene, which is what the IG is, the head of the IG. And there really wasn't much. I think for Scum and Villainy, they're going to have to, because it's Scum and Villainy. It's the bounty hunters. It's the dregs of that part of the world, or that part of the universe.
If you think about it, Scum's already ahead of everybody else. Like I said, they've already got 5 ships. They're going up to 6 with the Z. And then you're like, okay, what else do we need? You can pull from Resistance, the animated series, for that. There is a lot of scope for Scum to get new stuff that we've not seen that is actually canon, but I don't know. I think
and you're gonna have a whole Scum movie built with the Mandalorian when that series comes out.
Yeah, that's true too.
I have to admit, I wouldn't mind them just doing more factions and keeping it at, go to 12 factions and keep it at 7 ships a faction. I don't care. Just do what you want, man. Yeah. As long as they keep the game fun and have multiple viable options.
Right. No, I'm with you there. That's the key to me in this, is keep the game fun. Don't make it so that it's so complicated, that you have to put hundreds of hours in practice to be able to be competitive. Okay. Make it so you can pick some ships up and, finish in the middle of the pack and not have to know every single card that's out. Like Ed was saying earlier, people would talk about upgrades, and then you're reaching across and, hey, can I look at that every time? Because you're not in tune with every card. And as you get older, I'll be 50 next year. So as I get older, I don't want to put that much time into cards. I want to put more time into flying and having fun with my friends than I do trying to learn the damn thing, to such a depth that, that every tiny little strategy has to be understood. I want to push ships around the table, maybe win some dice, get lucky, that type of thing.
Yep.
But really, it's just re-engaging with the community and having fun.
I'm just super excited for, by the time, really what this is, what this points to is really a wave 3 meta, not necessarily a wave 1, wave 2. It's really what the wave 3 meta is going to look like in February for the most part. And I'm really excited by the idea of 7 factions.
Yeah.
Like, that is just so exciting to me.
Depth in a game is great. You know, as long as the factions are balanced, that's going to be a key to most of it. Because if it's scum only, so if every tournament you go to and the top 8 is 95% scum, we're back in the same boat we were. But the good thing is they have a balancing mechanic.
I was just going to say that even if something like that were to happen, they'd be able to quickly hotfix that and go, "Ooh, Boba's way too cheap. We need to bump him up a few points and eliminate this particular combo or that combo."
Yep. Yeah, it's a good way to do it. So it's a healthy way to play your game.
I know the competitive players are reading the list and they are seething, seething, and I get it.
But it's because they're so used to the bastardization of the game,
right?
That happened at the end. You know, that's my opinion. By the way, I think the game fell to a unstable point, and to where
you can blame it all on the Phantom, really. I mean,
that's the start of it.
If you really want to boil it down to everything that went wrong with X-Wing 1.0, the Phantom is what went wrong with X-Wing 1.0.
Yep.
And everything else was a rebalancing act after that ship released.
Well, it was that. It was Dash. It was, when you really start down the rabbit hole, it was Dash, and it was, these TIE fighters that could just do miraculous things that came out later.
Right, but all of that was in response. So follow the
exactly.
Follow the order of operations on it. So Whisper comes out. Whisper basically dominates the meta. So Fat Han comes around, and turrets had been in the game since the beginning. Yep. All of a sudden, Fat Han's winning. So now they come up with TLTs, and aces can't compete. So then you've got auto thrusters. Now aces are in the lead, and nobody else can compete. Now you've got bombs and missiles and U-boats that are blowing them out of the water. Like you really can honestly trace down how 1.0 began to break down with the existence of that one ship in the meta.
Right. No, I agree. It's fully, I mean,
and I loved it.
The chain of evidence does fall back to the Phantom at the end of the day, and that was Wave 4.
Wave 4.
You think about it, the game started to break down in Wave 4, and then it broke down again when they fixed munitions.
Yes.
And then it went even further down the rabbit hole.
Because they overcompensated with munitions, I think.
Right. And then the ships that they put out there that could use munitions were just gross. You have a pilot skill 3 ship with an EPT out there. And you can put 3 of them on the field with massive torpedo, just a massive alpha strike that can knock.
Just point and click and shoot. Like, you didn't have to fly it, really. Whatever's in front of you, that's what's getting the torpedoes.
Right. Or you go with the token side with that ship. Because that ship there, I think, was the final straw for me in the game of X-Wing. When the U-boats came out and you had Dangaroo, where you just couldn't do a damn thing to Dangar, pretty much by for Manaroo just protected Dang, and you didn't even have to fly Manaroo anywhere near anything going on the board. It was
as close. It was as close to a one-ship meta as we ever saw in X-Wing.
Right.
Because it was like, Manaroo was there, but if you couldn't get her off the board, Dengar would wipe you completely off the board.
And I do
such an annoyingness.
And I do understand when that meta existed, we still saw the E-Wing at the final table of worlds. And, I get that. I understand that. But
that is in the hands of a really good player.
Correct.
Was Nathan Idy or is that?
Well, it was Kevin Lenz first, and then Nathan Idy was second. And that's the thing that I looked at is that, you could compete against U-boats. But then last year, when you look at what won last year, the last Worlds, and you had two
give credit to Simeon, though. That was such a cool list.
You mean when Kane and Fenn won Worlds? Oh, wait, it didn't, did it? The sky wasn't actually falling all along.
No.
That's going to be easily one of my favorite moments from first edition ever. Was watching his dad run over to him, and he's like, no, wait, he gets a reroll. Wait. Okay, all right, now you can come and hug me. Yeah. That is easily one of my favorite moments from first edition.
And that's the whole point, is that, to me, X-Wing has always been a 3-season game. It's always been, you see the 3 seasons, the store championship season would have these build up to all these lists, and what made it worse, and I hate to, I'm not knocking Lyle or Bob on this, but List Juggler really made the world of this just so bad, because you get everybody wanting to play these high level archetypes, and so you'd have that store championship season, and then you would get the new FAQ where they changed a few things here and there, and then you have the regional season, which has pretty much the same ships with a few added that are at the high tables every time. And then you go to Worlds, and Worlds is a different animal, because it's a, it's a tournament that's high pressure, and who to be honest, what American had ever heard of Simeon before he played in that final? To be honest, very few. The Canadian Brits that we know probably knew him.
I feel like that's an American problem, not a Simeon problem.
I agree.
It is.
I do agree with that. What the majority of the game, though, is the majority of the American game is played in America. There's not many people that go.
You only have to look at the Coruscant stuff and the fact that as soon as no one from the States won, it was a meme tournament that no one cared about anyway. We weren't even trying.
I agree. So. I'm with you on that. And then you sit there and say, well, the list that won, that was. Because in Europe, the lists seemingly were different than the lists from the United States.
But you remember on our old show, like, we would have those folks from overseas, and one of the questions ultimately we always end up asking was like, well, what's the meta like? Like, what kind of lists are you playing against? And they were always playing against like these wonky lists that I remember at the time being a competitive American player going, well, that list doesn't sound any good. How is that getting to top tables in your local meta? Because their meta was just very different. They played very different.
Right, and it actually proved itself out after the Paul Heaver string, where you had the different champions coming from overseas, which changed, I think, the way that Americans view the game of X-Wing from that point
hope
on.
it did.
It was, and in fact, if you really get down to it, Paul Heaver potentially, in my opinion, should have lost to Morgan the year before his third one or whatever it was.
That was his second. Because I'm trying to remember how. Let me see if I remember.
Dallas. It was Dallas. Dallas was 13.
It was Morgan Reed, because Morgan Reed ran a Whisper Mini Swarm, and that was the three straight of fame that he literally eyeballed in a quarter an inch. Oh, I still remember every detail of that game. It was so cool. And then the last one was the Nathan Idy win.
Correct. Yeah. So, but when you look at it, after that, it's just been Europeans dominating world, because if I'm not mistaken, I know Nathan Eady made it again, and Kevin Lentz made it, but wasn't last year's 2 European players?
Yep.
Well, it was the last 3, because you had the guy, you had the one from.
I'm talking about where both players. I'm just talking about where both players were from Europe.
Oh yeah, no, the last one was both European players. No, you're absolutely right.
And you look at the lists that are making these finals. Nathan Eady against Paul was there was a Cornhorn something else list. But Kevin
Cornhorn, A-Wing.
And then the next one was Kevin Lentz with Cornhorn. Yeah, Poe. It was It was Rebel Regen. And then Kevin Lentz did the same thing with Rebel Regen again. And then we saw 2 Europeans, and that to me is where. And who is winning the Open Series? I know that those are not exactly the most realistic tournaments. But it isn't an American winning those tournaments. So if you're an American looking at this game, you're saying, they just pushed the reset button. Maybe we can gain dominance again.
Well, I feel like there's less options now. So one thing that I personally think North America does really, really well, but potentially to its detriment, is focus too heavily on what I'm going to say we, but I don't mean we as in the 3 of us. I mean we as in the podcasts. So,
right.
And it's like the insistence that Kane and Fenn was the best list, and it's backed up by statistics, and there's an incorrect way of interpreting the statistics were by telling everyone that you should play it means it turns up more, which means everyone thinks it's good, which means
Right.
we talk about it because everyone thinks it's good, and it makes a cuts because everyone's playing it. But if 100% of the lists in an event are a thing, it will make the cut. And
It's like it's a self-fulfilling
it's a
prophecy,
chicken
is
and
what
the
it is.
egg type thing.
Absolutely.
And then all you need to do is a tiny European meta to go, they're all playing this 150 billion point word based ship. Be a fucking shame if it just flew off the table, wouldn't it? Oh, what's that? You're Ioned? Oh, well, sad times for you.
Right. Yeah, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
He metaed the meta with that list, and that's why it was such a huge win for me to cheer that on.
But if you look at it, if you, and I'm going to massively generalize here, but if I say to you, okay, your Kane and Fen list, I'm going to beat it with 2 tractor beams and 2 ion cannons on a 2 ship list. So, well, you'll never kill it. I'm not going to fly near a board edge. You think I'm stupid? So, okay, well, you're consistent.
I'm not going to give you a choice.
Your consistent damage output of like 4 hits a turn from him is irrelevant because I'm going to be at range 3. Oh, you don't want me to be at range 3? That means you're flying towards me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just speeding up your demise.
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And there was loads, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Simeon. He did a really, really good job. And I'm not trying to take anything away from all the people who listen to what the podcasts say. And ultimately, I don't think necessarily that it's 100% the list anyway. It's definitely the player.
I agree.
Completely agree. The list can't save you.
I will fully admit that I am probably a choker. I could take the best lists and still lose in the top 4 because I just
I can attest to that because I've seen you in the hotel room just pissed at yourself because you blew a game. Our Imperial Assault Worlds moments,
Yeah.
Where you're just in there beating yourself up because you ended up like 4-4 or whatever it was, and because you had games won and still lost.
Yeah, and and it doesn't matter how good the list is; it still comes down to execution. So,
absolutely,
I know that there's been a lot of like banter aimed at like people who made it to Coruscant through flying Miranda and stuff like that. It's like the people still won system opens, and yeah, they might have been flying Nim Miranda, but they probably had to beat lots of Nim Mirandas to get there.
Right.
And it can't all be a 50-50 coin toss. There has to be some skill there to cross that hurdle. But anyway,
and I think
we're now like 37 minutes past where I wanted to end. So I was going to say, and if you want to finish the point you were going to start, Ed, and then I was going to see if you had one question, because obviously I asked a question, Sean asked a question, so I wasn't sure if you had a hyperspace related question as well. But finish the point you were going to make.
Sure. I think the biggest example of it, the list can't save you, it is skill, is the 3 Paul Heaver string. I know that I am guilty of Heaver worship myself, of the X-Wing Jesus that he is. But to me, that was the best example of it's the skill of the player and not necessarily the list. Don't get me wrong, Paul came with very innovative lists each time he went, but it was still him going through every other player to get there. Right. So I still genuinely believe that it is skill. I think the list can help. I think a good quality list takes an average player to an above average player, but it doesn't put them on that top tier. You need the skill and the list, and in that combination, it's deadly. The only other question...
So I'm just going to come in. I want to close your point because I have a good follow-up to this. I've always found that all of these meta lists that the podcast talk about are actually a symptom of the regionals dice being valued as money, because it encourages people to not give a fuck about actually trying to win. It's about making the cut to make profit from your event. And that mentality is what spoiled a lot of X-Wing in general and really shut down a lot of the innovation and the fun of the game for me, was that it didn't become about wanting to win and you wanting to be the winner. It was your list that you won with. It was about, well, I made the cut at 5 regionals this year, so I sold each set of dice for $100. It cost me $20 to enter each event, so I'm $400 in profit. And I'm also awesome because I look at all these dice. And that's the big problem that I found. And that's a perpetuation of these consistent lists. And that's what it does. It will get you into the cut without actually that much skill.
Yep, I tend to agree with that. Which is why I still have a sour point for the Roanoke 8 that held out and said, no, we're just going to take auto draws.
No, I'm actually... I love that.
I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm okay with it, but it
coming
is
from a Magic background.
Yeah, but it is a symptom of that mentality.
That's a symptom of a poor TO.
Yes. Yeah.
If 8 players can all ID and make a cut, you fucked up running your event.
Yes.
And be all end all of that story, bad TO. I don't even know who it was, but I would tell them to their face, not in any spiteful way, but they must know that it was their fault that happened and just didn't have the balls to put themselves in front of all of that public hate. If that had been my event, IDs would still be in the game because I would be taking the heat for that if I'd have made that mistake. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I'm infallible as a TO. I probably would have made the same mistake again as well, because it was to do with a number of drops that changed it, I believe.
It was, correct.
A combination of the buys and the drops made it so that was actually possible. And I would have made the same mistake as well, but I would have put myself in the firing line before I put my players in the firing line. But
correct. And that's the way I would have done it too. Number one, they wouldn't have been able to ID, unfortunately, with me. I don't care about the rule, just because if we're going to get to that point, because we had talked about this on a show, actually.
We did the week that
happened. I ID'd the week before. Me and Calvin ID'd the week before.
Right, and we had a conversation about the ID, and I brought it up. What happens if 8 players ID? And then the very next week or a couple weeks later, that happened. And, at the time, I even said it. You even said it, Ed. I don't remember what Chris's response was that we would say okay because of the Magic background that we have, because that's how Magic works.
Mm-hmm. And because they were playing within the rules.
Correct.
We disagreed with the rule.
But I'll bet you anything, if those dice weren't on the line, that would not have been. No, that would have been an issue. Then they ate it. If it was for range rulers, the world wouldn't have exploded, because there was that sidecast group. There was a group of people outside of the people that played in that tournament that actually railed against those guys, and most of it was because of the fact that, well, if they would have played, my friend may have made it in because he may have won. One of those guys would have, that crap came up, we saw it from the prominent people in the community, where just that explosion came in, and that's actually what made that a problem. And if it wasn't for the dice, because that's really at the end of the day what that was all about, was dice. It wouldn't have been as big of an issue.
Don't take this the wrong way, Ed, but how many times did we used to talk about regional season? And I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. But all I care about is getting some dice.
Yeah.
But again, I again go back to a previous statement that I made in this show, which is I still own all the stuff that.
I'm not.
No. But you're right. For me, it was a matter of I wanted the dice because the dice are cool. I didn't want the dice to sell them and make money off the event. But I don't want to try to demonize people that do that either. If that is how you enjoy your hobby, that is how you fund it, that is your way of. I have no right to tell you how to enjoy your game.
That's why I really, really liked when they did challenge coins, and they were the big prize, and everyone hated them because they weren't worth money.
No.
It's not that they hated the challenge
I'll
coin.
tell you why I hated challenge coins.
I know why this is. I already know where this is going.
Because when you get the guys that show up and they're using them as fucking shield tokens.
But
that's so baller. Though.
That was the only way.
I understand why they do it. I get that. I get. It's just, it's being a TO at an event or even playing against those guys in an event, and it's because at the time it was a Sheer No Whisper list or something like that where they were winning like crazy. And, this is a podcast group of people that did this. And across the country, you saw this. It was just the attitude. It wasn't it was really just an attitude issue to me where, I'm throwing it in these guys' face because I got this stack of challenge points. I get it. I have no problem with them doing that. But it's the attitude that comes from it, but it's represented by the damn challenge coins. I thought the challenge coins were really cool. And I had actually made a suggestion to Wade, about the time, when I was still heavily involved in all that challenge coins would be cool. And I'm not saying it was because of me, but it's just they went the right way with them. I liked them. They were cool.
People did that to try and give value to them. You'd be surprised how many people saw that and then bought challenge coins.
I agree. I agree.
I'm not saying that the people did it to make money. I'm sure the people did it because they thought it'd be funny. And
right.
I have no problem with them doing that. But they did it to instill some value in themselves to a challenge coin. And I'm sure I must have mentioned this millions of times now on the various podcasts. But I used to play competitive Warhammer Fantasy, and we entered those events for a fucking printed out certificate that, not even an official one that they'd made themselves. And one of the things I do now for my events is Golden Distribution. Phil's an awesome rep. He's the head salesperson at Golden, and he got in these trophies, and it's actually a cardboard construction kit of build your own trophy, and on the front it says "You're a winner," and that's what I give out to everyone now at the events. You're a winner.
I had someone that did something very similar. We had a local guy here that ran a lot of the 40K events. He's since retired from doing it, but he used to work with wood, and he would make these wooden trophies that said first place, second place, third place, and like they'd have like a Warhammer picture on it, and it was laminated. It was really kind of cool. I used to have those stacked up in my garage for winning events like that. That was really cool. Like to me, like you said, for 40K, I didn't play because there was no money. Yeah. You weren't making any cash on it. It was just to play. But to have those little things kind of in my garage, that was really kind of cool. So the two things, since we're on challenge coins for just a second, one of the things I really wish that they had done was establish some type of gentleman's agreement. Because the idea behind a challenge coin, I know, Sean, you were in the U.S. military, so you know this. I don't know if the UK did this or not. I don't know my UK
sure
military. But the idea was that if you beat somebody with a challenge coin, you got the challenge coin. And I really had wished that there was some type of gentleman's agreement that if you had someone that had stacked up shields on their Shirnu and you beat them, at the end of the game, it would have been tradition. You won the challenge coin. Here's a challenge coin. Yeah. That would have been more sportsman to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a challenge coin's about being the cock of the walk.
Right, exactly.
Whoever has the most, the highest level, most powerful challenge coin is the guy that doesn't have to buy the round of drinks at the bar. That's the concept of the challenge coin in the military. It's also prestige. There's some prestige to it too. I don't have many. I didn't get any when I was in, but I've gotten them since my job is related to that.
And so the other point that I wanted to touch on was bling has kind of been part of the game since the first Wave 1 store kits came out. So the very first exposure that I had to anything outside of my local gaming environment was the first regionals I went to. And I remember the first person that I played had all acrylic focus tokens. Those were the dark green, all acrylic focus tokens. And I went, wow, those are cool. I want those.
Yeah.
And to me, it was spinner rims on the Cadillac kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't need them to play the game. it was just a prestige level. So whenever you played against another player that had all the alt art cards and all the acrylic tokens, you know that that guy had played some games. You knew that he had won some games. He had won those tokens. Now it's a completely different thing because people are selling them on eBay. But in those early kind of days, it was ooh, wow, he's got acrylic the first acrylic dark acrylic range rulers or the first wave of acrylic target locks. Like, oh wow, he must be a good
the
player.
target locks they're pretty nice. I use those.
Yeah. Okay, let's reel this back in, guys. We'll reel it back into Ed's
This is
question.
the most competitive you're ever going to hear us talk because we don't talk like this on the normal show.
Well, this is where we do this.
This is where we do this.
All right, Ed, what's your question?
If you had to take a guess, when hyperspace events start, they start what, in January, correct?
I think they start in March or April. I'm not 100%.
Okay, so we will be in wave 3. So we will have 7, by that point in time, we will have 7 factions in the game. If you had to take a guess now, what do you think you'll be flying competitively in those events if you were to attend?
If it's me, it's either Rebels or the 3 fire sprays. Because I latch on and I just stick with it.
Yeah, no, I tend to do the same thing.
It's repetition for me. I gotta have the repetition. I will never fly a Fen. I will never fly the Boba Fen combo. Not because I don't think it's not. It's not because I can't fly the damn Fen route. It's too difficult for me. And my problem is that the way my brain works is I fixate on ships that have a 1 straight. So a ship that has a 1 straight allows me to control movement more because the way that I see the board. I don't see the board like everybody else does. I don't see it in the rule of 11. I don't see it in that. I see it in how can I control my movement. Like B-Wings are great for me because I get a 1 straight and I can stress to do a 1 turn. The change in fire spray, why fire sprays are so good to me, for me, is they went to a 1 turn where they didn't have it before. Now, the only ship I've ever flown that doesn't have a 1, the 2 ships I've flown that doesn't have a 1 turn that I've flown competitively are the Decimators, because they didn't have a 1 turn, they had a 1 bank, and X-Wings. Everything else, I've never flown competitively TIE fighters. I've tried interceptors, and every time I do it, I just screw it up badly. The one ship I can fly okay is A-Wings, because there's a little bit of give with A-Wings, and because you can put so many of them on the board. I've never won games with them, but I've played.
I know we said we weren't going to talk about points, but you can fly 5 loaded resistance A-Wings, Sean.
I know. That may happen. that may be a list that creeps in there at some point in time.
Alex Davey will be happy with that.
Yeah, it's when and I have a story for another day, but about A-Wings and me. But I think it'll either be some in Falcons, but the Falcons, see, they changed the dial on the Falcon, so the Falcon no longer has a 1 turn.
Yeah.
So that changes me being able to fly the Falcon. Because my list is everybody, I love ORSs, and especially since they changed them, they gave them
they get the
all
big
the
boy
shields,
pants on now.
but I'm not going to be able to fly them very well. And so for me, it'll probably be if they come out. So if it happens, if robots come out, I'll probably be flying robots competitively till the end of time. If not, it'll probably be the 3 fire sprays, and then if I can come up with something else from another faction where I get 1 turns and 1 straights, probably try to fly
Wings.
Yeah.
Resistance A-Wing. How about you, Chris?
So the easy answer is obviously still Boba Fen and something. I was playing around with. I've nearly run it against you tonight. If we'd have played that game, I was thinking about Boba Fen and Lando in the escape craft for some coordinate actions. Feels like it'll be a pretty good list.
You can get all 4 of those in the same list?
Yeah, you can have. So it's Lando in the escape pod, not in the Falcon.
Okay. I thought you meant Lando and the.
No, Lando in. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he still gets his rerolls. It basically makes it an Initiative 4 escape pod. leaves you enough points for decent upgrades and a bid, but you get coordinate on Fen or on Bubba, so you
which
can
is
get
super cool.
So maybe that, but I can see it getting a little bit boring. I've been playing it for so long previously, and I might want to change. First order looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
94 points for Kylo Ren is pretty good. I mean, he's only 82, but you're going to put Supernatural on him, so.
Oh yeah, no, of course, absolutely.
And then you can. It looks like without upgrades, you can easily fit Kylo, Quick Draw, and Midnight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that seems pretty good.
That sounds pretty good.
And then the A-wings. I'm gonna fly resistance and Rey. 80 points for Rey. You can.
I know.
Rey, Finn, and Rose is less than 100 points.
Which is stupid.
Which is the dream combo. I can add a blank. I can spend a blank for a target lock, and then I don't even need to worry about Rey's force powers for these rerolls. I can just spend a target lock when I just got. It's crazy, and it's like less than 100 points. I'm convinced that the Rey's Falcon is cheaper because it has less hit points, but I think it's going to be a better, more popular ship because it gives you more on Poe. Poe is 34 points in old money. And he has a better chassis because the T-70 is better than it was.
Oh yeah, it's way better than it was.
And he has push limits built in. At 34 points in old money.
So yeah, you're looking at like a Rey Poe kind of direction. So for me, I think I'm still going to find something in the Imperials. I really still think that like Supernatural Vader and like a mini swarm maybe sounds good to me. I'm really struggling with the Imperials after this. I mean, to be perfectly honest, as excited as I am, I'm looking at all those going, how do I beat Bobo?
In honesty,
balls out swarm.
See, that was the other option I was
cut Vader and just go with the balls out swarm.
Jamming Bubba's not bad either. So the Reaper. So ironically, from before 2.0 was actually out, and I was talking about the Vader, Reaper, and 2 Strikers. That's actually back to being legal in hyperspace now.
It is. It is. The second thing, though, I'm going to find it really difficult not to buy in on Republic. To be able to fly
if we're talking
Jedi.
Republic, so I remember...
We are talking Wave 3.
With buzz droids and stuff is all of it. I'm going to be so cool. But
I'm going to park them on there with heavy laser cannons. Choo-choo, choo-choo. Yeah, no, I think just the idea, because keeping in mind, one of the things that was keeping all of the Force users on the table for anything on the Imperial side was the generic Inquisitors. Well, they're gone.
Yeah.
So you're going to have generic Jedi pilots out there that you could run a list. Like, I like the idea of running Anakin and a couple of other generic Jedi and just see how dangerous Jedi could be in combat. That's gonna be really hard not to run and just have fun with. I haven't looked at the point cost. I don't know how they work out, but that just sounds like a fun list to play.
Yeah, I think just with the adding more factions in just makes it more fun. Makes it more exciting, in my opinion.
So I think this is actually run as long as one of our regular shows, Chris. So maybe you can.
I'll have to actually. I was expecting 45 minutes to an hour. Then I was like, we'll be done in 90 minutes instead. And then it was, okay, we're just going. Let's do this.
Yeah, we just went off on many tangents. That's for sure.
Oh, no, of course.
We were not in focus.
So, yep, it is actually getting a little bit late, so I am going to have to jump out here myself. So we'll close this in focus out. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Sean, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Took your shoes over for a little bit there, Ed. And,
that was cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's one thing I like about this is we get closer to this, and now that this is out, it's really just now I'm ready to go. For X-Wing, I'm ready to go. So great talking to you guys. Hopefully we'll have another one of announcement.
Chris, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We'll definitely have to get a Skype game in as well, and a Vassal game.
Outside of this recording, that's what we were supposed to do tonight, and then this news dropped, and we're like, no, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, that'll be something else we can do for patrons. But yeah, I think thanks to everyone who's watching this, because you should all be patrons. And
absolutely,
yeah, good effort. Full 2 hours worth of content for you.
Absolutely. All right, so that's going to do it for this Lack of Focus episode 4. Let us know what you're thinking on this one. I'm really kind of curious. Shoot us some feedback back on the Facebook page. I'm really kind of curious to see what the rest of the fan base out there is looking, the X-Wing fans out there, to see what are their reactions. I haven't tuned into the nerd hate yet, but I have a feeling I know where it's going. In any case, we'll see you for our regular show coming up in the next week or so. And until then, guys, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.